After Jones and Representative Justin Pearson were expelled earlier this year, they went on to be reinstated and they win re-election, while Representative Gloria Johnson, who was saved from expulsion by a single vote, is actually pursuing a Senate run against Republican Marsha Blackburn. And yet the narrative is somehow that Jones is being silenced or even oppressed. His voice, though, has actually gotten louder, amplified by the left-leaning media, which seems to tend to forget or maybe overlook the actual heroes of that day. Nashville Detective Sergeant Jeff Mathis, Detective Michael Colazzo, Officer Rex Engelbert, and the other officers who ran towards the active shooter who killed 6, including 3 children, at the Covenant School in March. Well, joining me right now to discuss this is Kristal Knight, former Democratic statewide political director for the 2018 U.S. Senate campaign in Tennessee. She follows Tennessee state politics very closely, and she knows Justin Jones personally. Kristal, welcome back to the show. Good to see you. I guess the question is...
Thanks for having me.
Do you not see, it seems to me that the media is really painting them as heroes and martyrs, and when they do that, it's taking away, in my opinion, from the issues, from the real discussion of the issues, because this is really about lionizing politicians for creating a disruption.
Well, I think what Justin Jones, Representative Jones, has been doing from day one is speaking about the issue, and he's been silenced. And so because he's been silenced, the media has obviously picked that up. The actions that have taken place because of the silencing by the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, and other GOP members of the Tennessee State Legislature, they are the ones who are producing this chaotic media fanfare, if you will. And so when we think about what actions lead to another action, there was a shooting. Representatives got up on the floor and attempted to speak out about it. They called for sensible policy legislation. They were silenced. They were expelled. Even in this special session,
let's just talk about this, though, because today, sure, you want to agree with the rules or disagree with the rules. That's a whole discussion we can have. But the rules of this chamber are you have to talk about the bill. And, you know, he's not the only one who was admonished. A Republican representative, Gino Bolso, was told to stay on topic as well. And so couldn't you argue he was told to sit down, he was told to not talk about this. If he wanted to talk about mental health, bring it up at a later point. Could you say that he just broke the rules?
Well, I think that whenever you're having a policy discussion, there are always anecdotes. And so if you're bringing up an anecdote about the particular piece of legislation that you're talking about very briefly, we see people do that at all levels of government. And so I don't think that that's reason enough to tell someone to sit down, to silence them, to cut off their mics, to have an entire Democratic body walk out. Those are the kinds of things that feel drastic and that bring this media attention.
Well, let me ask you this. Is it fair to the narrative that they're being silenced or oppressed when they have a loud megaphone right now, at least amplified by the left-leaning media, and on top of the fact, Jones was reelected, Johnson is exploring a run for Senate. Does it feel disingenuous to say that they're being silenced or oppressed?
Absolutely not. They were elected to represent their constituents in their respective districts across the state of Tennessee. Whatever happens in the media happens in the media. But their job is to go into the chamber every single week and fight for Tennesseans. And if they're not being able to do that because the Speaker of the House is telling them to sit down, cutting off their mics, asking people to leave the chambers, then the job that they're actually there for, they're not being allowed to do it. And so they are being silenced.
Should they not follow the rules? I'm not saying they're right rules or no, but if there are rules in place, shouldn't they follow 15 seconds?
Absolutely. They should follow the rules, and they have. The debate is how they follow the rules, and that's what's up for discussion.
Kristal Knight, thank you. I like talking about this with you. Hopefully we get a chance. Maybe there'll be another event that we'll talk about at a future date.
We'll see.
Kristal,
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. Go to NewsNationNow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.